Hello and welcome to the Survivor's Corner. I'm Kirk. Uh-oh. Where's my group? Try again, Jetwire. You were off.
Hi, everyone, and I'm Jetwire. And today we're joined by a special guest, Conatus Games.
Hello.
Welcome, welcome.
Thank you very much. I'm really happy to be here.
Yes, thank you.
Toasty, thank you for the raid and bringing all these wonderful people with you.
Oh, amazing. Thanks you, Toasty.
Which means now you have to say hello to all these people. And because you've been gone for a month, you get to do this.
I can't see chat, though.
I'm giving you heck.
You tell me who's here. I'll say
Okay,
hi.
I'll tell you who's here. It's Moonraker, it's Faye, it's Mary Gilda, it's Eugene, it's ST Nyland, Clippy, 7429, Wandering Firekeeper's here, Castle's here, Picklelil is here, and Toasty is obviously here. And I think that was it. So hello, everybody. She's phoning it in as usual because, you know, she thinks she's busy.
Yep.
But she's back.
Yes,
which is great.
I am back.
Which is great. So we'll let her get things kicked off because she's pent up with lots of talking that needs to be done.
Yes, absolutely. Well, and again, real quick, just hello to everyone. Thank you so very much for joining us. But without further ado, I guess getting into our topic, today we're going to be talking about loneliness versus solitude. And Conatus, this is kind of your area. So where do you want to start us off at?
Sure. So hello to chat, by the way. Thanks for being here and thanks for having me. I think a good place to start here would be to just propose some rough and ready concepts of loneliness and solitude. And then we can think about how those show up for us in the long dark and then go down whatever path that takes us. Does that sound good?
For sure.
All right, so these are rough and ready concepts. We can adjust these if we need to. But loneliness is usually thought of as a negative feeling that can occur in the presence or the absence of other people, but the characteristic feeling of loneliness is a disconnection from other people, whereas solitude kind of implies that you're alone, and solitude isn't primarily about a feeling of disconnection. It's about connection to either yourself or your environment or your situation or something like that. So I want to throw this back to you and to chat because I have some ideas about this myself, but I want to hear from you all about where loneliness and solitude show up in your experience of the long dark.
That's a deep question.
Yeah.
And I can give my own answer first if you want, but I'd love to hear from you.
I was going to give Jetwire the lead here because I know she's been away. So, but I would say my biggest thing that, and this is after we'd kind of talked a little bit in the pre-show stuff, because you are cast in this role as the sole survivor, is what you're going through more loneliness than solitude because you didn't seek this out.
Yeah, so this is one way to think about it is what is the survivor going through, right? Will and Astrid are probably pretty lonely, I would think, and it's a pretty harrowing experience. I don't know if we were in it, how much solitude we would find. But then also as players, we kind of, at least I do, I experience moments where the game feels like a kind of solitude.
Yes.
Do you have any thoughts on
Yeah, so I mean, I think it divides up like from like a player perspective, kind of per region, because I do think some regions feel lonelier than others. So maybe like Hush River Valley, for example, where there's not really a whole lot of connection to be made. It's just kind of you and everything else. There's not a lot of people, not a lot of reminders of civilization, not a lot to really ground yourself with. And then also to that, I think it also kind of comes in the kind of as you progress into the game more, because once you've run around and you've seen everything, I'm almost wondering if that kind of turns it more into loneliness once you're kind of in this repetitive cycle as well of just wandering the world.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point, and I think that might even tie into different difficulty settings and especially custom things, right? Like Dead World is probably a lonelier experience, as wildlife becomes more scarce and as you've picked everything clean.
Oh yeah, for sure. I could definitely agree with that.
You use the
D word.
Yeah, you use the D word, but that's not where I was going to go with that. But I was going to say, you mentioned Hush River Valley being, because of the lack of civilization being lonely, but in some ways it would be the place to go to for solitude because it's away from all of that.
That's true. That's a good point as well.
And I'll pay your dues to the jar.
Yeah, these things are so close to each other, and they're not incompatible either, right? Because if one of these is a disconnection from other people, the other one's not connection to other people, right? It's connection to yourself or connection to an environment. I saw some people in the chat mention nature. I think Pickle Lil said the beautiful environment. That's when they really feel moments of solitude. And I think you probably could feel a kind of connection to the world, but also a lonely one at the same time. And Hush River Valley, I think, is probably a pretty good place for that sort of feeling.
Yep.
I actually would go sort of the other way around. For me, I don't usually feel lonely in the game until I'm reading some note that's left behind, or until I see some bit of environmental storytelling, like some spray paint on the wall or something like that, that reminds me, oh, I'm alone. There's no people here.
Yeah.
Could also be said for the mysterious signal fire when you get up there. It's like you think you found something, you may have found someone, only to find nothing.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember whenever Hush River Valley first came out, and that was pretty much exactly the feeling. It's like, oh gosh, what is that? And then you climb up there and it's like, it's a corpse and some stuff, and you're just like, oh.
Yeah, the game plays with you too, right? Because when finding corpses and things like this is a very lonely feeling, and it reminds you of your own situation as well. But then with the signal fire, I mean, that was burning recently.
Yeah.
Right? If you got here a little bit sooner, would you still be condemned to this lonely time, or did you just miss a possible companion?
Agreed.
Or competitor.
Yep.
Or a competitor. You don't know how they're going to react. I would like to think that I would hopefully bring them some food and a warm hat, but I don't know. I don't know about that.
Very interesting. And I do also like the concept that you brought up, that loneliness and solitude. They don't have to be mutually exclusive things. You can still feel both at the same time. So I think that's kind of important to underline as well, whenever we're talking about these concepts in the game.
Yeah, I think a lot of abstract conversation about emotions and feeling, they tend to talk as if you can just be experiencing one thing at a time. But you can experience a lot of different things. Maybe not everything is compatible, but yeah, loneliness and solitude are definitely compatible with each other, and there's kind of a spectrum, I think. I agree with some of the people in the chat here that when you're really admiring nature or something like this is a feeling of deep connection. And we generally tend to think of it as a kind of positive feeling as well. And there, it could make sense that you could still feel a little bit lonely, but the dominant affect is this feeling of solitude and connection.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Like I could see it, the solitude, like the sun shining brightly, through the trees, and you can hear animals walking around almost versus like walking through a blizzard at night.
Yeah, do the animals make us feel any less lonely? I know.
Yeah.
They do.
The wolves make you feel welcome and warm.
Right. The welcoming committee.
They're happy to see you. They want to be next to you.
I wonder if it's because I was thinking about this podcast, but in a recent episode, I just decided that a deer was my friend, and I even wasted some resources. Don't know what I was thinking, but I think it was probably to combat this kind of loneliness.
Mm-hmm.
So there are a bunch of different topics. I'm trying to keep an eye on the chat here, but I will invite others to do that as well.
Yeah, you're a little garbled. Is that only for me?
Yeah, I was just going to say I was letting him try to finish, but yeah, you're breaking up just a little bit. Let me reconnect you real quick, and we'll touch base on that.
Sure.
All right, try it again, see if that helps. If not, I'll have you reconnect.
Sure. Is this any
That's
better?
much better. Okay.
Much better.
Okay.
Okay. Excellent. So I was just saying, I'm trying to keep an eye on the chat here. I saw Eugene mentioning Sartre to Hell is Other People. I love the Solitude personally. Yeah, that's a quote that I think is fascinating because it sounds so definitive. Hell is other people, but I think it's about the quality of relationships. You can have really bad relationships,
Mm-hmm.
and you can have some healthy ones too. In other places, Sartre isn't as much of a pessimist. So I'm just going to put some topics out here just in case anyone is interested in any of these things. But I know in the pre-talk chats, we were talking about how loneliness and solitude relate to values and morality and how that relates to the long dark, and also about how, and it looks like there's some split opinions here, that some people find the game to be very lonely and other people don't find it very lonely at all, but how that feeling of loneliness relates to us as a community as well. So these are just topics that we could talk about if anyone's interested in that. Am I still garbled? It sounds like somebody...
No, you're good. You're good.
You're good.
Okay.
Yeah, chat's delayed just a little bit. We are in low latency, but chat is delayed by about 6 to 10 seconds. So just in
okay.
case you see, yeah.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yep. So
yeah.
I think both are really interesting points, like talking about the community, because, and also the words, brain moves faster than mouth. But anyways, no, I think the relationship of loneliness and solitude compared to the community, because I know a lot of us in the community, we're the only ones that really play the game, like in our direct physical circles. So I almost kind of wonder if that feeds into the amazing online community we have as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think so. I mean, for me at least, people are talking about how, and this is famously known, that you can feel lonely when you're surrounded by other people.
Mm-hmm.
And it's that feeling of disconnection, right? And I think when you have that feeling of disconnection, it's usually because the people you're around, you don't relate to them, or they don't relate to you, or you have some sort of experience that you can't adequately communicate to the people
Mm-hmm.
around you, maybe
Mm-hmm.
because you're just very different, or maybe because the experience is so personal that you can't communicate it. And so the long dark, at least for me, I don't know if this is true of the community in general, but I think it probably is. A lot of us, like you said, Jitwire, we're the only ones in our direct real life circles that might play this game, or we might not have many people that play this game. And so being able to take those experiences and share them with a community of people who understand it. And that's true for any video game, probably, right? If I start talking about Dark Souls to a friend of mine who's never played something like that, they're not going to understand. That's also a much larger community. There are a lot of games like Dark Souls, and I think loneliness doesn't play the same role in that sort of game as it does in The Long Dark.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to read one here from chat that I think is kind of compelling here too, and I think this leads into a little bit with, like, the difference between being lonely in a crowd or not, and I think it tends to be with personality types. And so Mary is saying that when I do feel lonely in the game, I wish I could have a dog as a companion. I've never wished for another person as a companion, and I'm going with the thought process of being introverted versus extroverted. I think people that are extroverted are going to see more loneliness, whereas introverted are going to see more solitude.
Yeah, I think that's a good point.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we all have our own preferences, right? And we all have our own social needs as well. So if you just don't have a strong need to feel connected to other people, or to feel connected to other people in, every way at all times, then that makes a lot of sense. That's a great observation, because it does seem like it's kind of split. And that's the reason why we're talking about two things, right? Loneliness and solitude. Because maybe a better way to think about it is that for some people, The Long Dark is a matter of both loneliness and solitude. I certainly feel both. But for some people, I remember there was a video a long time ago called like The Long Dark, Lonely Masterpiece. And I thought that put it very strongly in one direction, that the game's very lonely. And maybe for some people it is very lonely. But maybe for others it's just not lonely at all. That's not what they're trying to get out of a video game, or maybe it's not what they need in general.
Yeah, it's definitely very interesting once you consider all the different perspectives and like all the nuances to it as well. Because whenever you're talking about feelings, like things aren't really black and white. They are very much in a gray area that can go either way.
For sure. I mean, these words are just our best attempt to nail down something that's always changing, and ultimately, to some extent, is personal to the point where you can't adequately express it.
Mm-hmm.
For sure. So I am curious about how the game itself leads to what I think we all agree is such a great community.
Mm-hmm.
And I was thinking of that partly in terms of I was thinking that mostly in terms of loneliness, but maybe we can flip it the other way around too, right? That solitude, that feeling of connection to an environment, makes that experience of the game typically a positive experience, and one that we feel is valuable. And maybe that's part of why our interactions are so positive, because the experiences for a lot of people, especially if it's a more solitudinous experience than a lonely one, those experiences themselves are positive in a way that, I love Dark Souls, for example, but it's very stressful. I would not describe it as a positive experience every time.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that one in particular.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so it seems like you probably have like both sides of the spectrum, and then what we were kind of talking about, you probably also have people where one or the other, it's not mutually exclusive, like they feel a bit of both.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, it really is situational. Like, again, for me, it's when I see there are different ways of being with other people in the world, and we see the effects of other people all the time. And it's like, as soon as you find a can of peaches, right? I mean, that didn't grow on a tree, right?
Yeah.
The peaches maybe, but somebody made that. And so it announces that there are other people in this world. And in The Long Dark, in survival mode at least, that's all you get. And it's those moments where I feel like, oh, this is lonely. It's being announced to me that nobody else is here. But when I can forget about that, right? Sometimes you just forget about that and you just do your own thing. Your base is established. You're just trying to survive. And then I feel like, at least for me, the loneliness doesn't creep in basically at all until I find another body or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think this kind of feeds into a question that Kirk asked before we got on, but I do want to ask it again for chat in case they're interested as well. So, do you feel like the tales feed into this feeling at all? Do you feel like finding those notes and those remnants, even though they're lonely, they kind of force you to go out and seek connection?
Yeah, I don't. Is that directed at me?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I think there's something to that. I mean, I think that in general, and this is part of what makes The Long Dark such a potent game, in my opinion, is that in our day-to-day lives, you know, even if we are introverts, even if we don't need direct physical interaction with other people in the same way that others might, we make sense of our world with other people. Like, we're born into a world that already exists. We're born into a language that already exists. And there's already values and meanings and understandings of the way things work in that world. And we adopt those things and we reshape them to the best of our ability. And as the situation affords, right, we make sense of the world ourselves, but also together, whether that's direct or indirect. And the tales are so interesting to me because they really are, there are these big narratives, and it helps you understand the world better, and it helps you understand the people who aren't there. Right? I mean, you're still understanding another person a little bit more. You're still getting a connection with another person a little bit more, even though they're absent.
Yeah.
So I think that was a great question that Kirk Steven asked about that, because there's a lot of reasons to do the tales, I think.
Yeah.
But one of them, and especially if we want to think at that level of the character versus the player, I can't imagine that my character isn't doing it, at least in part, to feel some sort of a connection. Like, they did not choose to be on Great Bear Island. We did.
Yeah.
And here, I'm going to read something here from Josh K. He wrote this a few minutes ago, but it kind of falls into what we're talking about here. And it says that all the quotes at the beginning of the game and the art and the music, it hits a tone for me of solitude and reverence. With the permadeath fear, it gives it some importance. Or impertinence. If I'm butchering that.
Yeah.
So even the tone of the game
that's
with the
another good
music and everything kind of, draws that in.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I'm always impressed by the audio engineering in The Long Dark, because it really has the ability to suck you in and create an emotional tone. I think the impermanence and the permadeath thing too, I think that plays really well with the setting.
Yes.
Because impermanence, I mean, on some theories of meaning, I don't entirely buy this, but I think there's something right about this, is that meaning comes from impermanence to some extent. This is a very popular idea, right? That, like, oh, if you lived forever, nothing would matter. I don't think that's exactly true, but there's something to that. It's that things change, that leads you to want to actually do something with the time that you have. And this is another place where that, for me at least, again, where that loneliness shows up is when I see reminders that there were people and now there aren't. It's especially when I see a body, right? But that body isn't just the past, right? None of us experience our own deaths. At least we don't have any reports of that. Like, I don't know what happens after death. But we do experience the death of others. And in The Long Dark, when you see a body, it's a reminder, right? it's not just that person's past, but unless you're one of these people that does 10,000 day runs, it's also your future.
Yeah.
And so I think that impermanence aspect to it really does intersect with the lonely setting as well. Like, you get these, even if you don't feel lonely, you get a reminder of where you're heading.
Mm-hmm. So
Every dead body is a glimpse into your own future.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. So kind of going off topic a little bit, but just because of that question made me think of it. Do you feel like cheat death has kind of cheapened the experience a little bit, like that kind of feeling? Because there is like this kind of feeling, this kind of dread, this fear of losing a run. But now, because, you know, if it was over, if you died, that was it. It was done, gone. But now we kind of have the cheat death system.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely how I feel. I don't have any thought that you should or should not use cheat death. Right? One of the things that I love about this game is you just play it how you want to play it. It's a single player game.
Yeah.
Right? Do what you want to do. But yeah, for me at least, and understanding that this is a little bit off topic, so I'm not going to try to force a connection here. I do think that it cheapens it a little bit for me and my experience, because so much of it is a matter of, at some point I'm going to mess up. I'm gonna mess up 4 times in a row, and then I'm going to die, and that's going to be it. And that makes the game, maybe what I want to talk about is immersion. There are different types of immersion, and part of what The Long Dark is good at is this situational, embodied decision making kind of immersion. It's because you're in the situation and because your decisions have a weight to them that I can feel so connected to it. And all of that, yeah, atmosphere and environmental immersion as well, from
ST Nyland.
ST Nyland, thank you. So I think so. I think that these decisions have a permanence to them, that they have a weight, and that you're, at the end of the day, just going to be another one of these bodies to be, you know, respectfully removed in Safe House customization. That really lets me sink into it, and nothing against anyone who wants to use that. And if it makes your experience better, that's awesome. I don't speak for everybody, but that's a great question. That's how I feel. How do you both feel about permadeath and how it relates to your experience?
Yeah, so for me, again, kind of echoing what you said, anyone who wants to use it, nothing against it. Just kind of talking about my own personal feelings. For me, personally, I've never really used cheat death because I do feel like it kind of removes the weight. I feel like it allows me to be more reckless because I know I have 3 chances. So I kind of almost remove it from my mind and still continue on like it does. And for me, that gives the game almost like a deeper experience for me. So personally, I don't use it just because, mainly because of the emotional weight that it makes me feel personally.
Yeah, an attachment to your life.
Yep.
It's weighty.
Yep.
Kirk, Steven, do you have any thoughts on this?
My feeling on it is I'm also on the side of the permadeath is what brings the game some, I don't know, it gives you something to sink your teeth into, in the sense that your decisions have a ton of weight in what you do. A good example would be recently doing the hand luggage challenge from Pickle and making a decision that ends up causing another bad decision, and you end up losing the run. So in that situation, cheating death wouldn't be the right thing to do. I can see circumstances where cheating death could be a useful tool. You know, if the game kills you inadvertently and you want to keep a run going, you know, there's a lot of bugs and things. I wouldn't fault myself for doing that if it was not a decision,
Hmm.
driven thing. And we also have to, we also have to pay homage to the fact that in real life there are times where you have cheated death. You may have been in a car accident, and because for whatever reason that car was 6 inches to the left or 6 inches to the right, and you didn't take a full on hit, or anything along that line, something happened where 2 seconds difference might have made all the difference in the world. So sometimes cheating death is part of regular life too. So I think it depends on circumstance. I, again, don't fault anybody. I think us older players are just used to what it is
Hmm.
with permadeath. But I think there could be circumstances where it's either permissible or you might use it as a game playing style. I know there are some challenges out there that implement it. So I'm on the side of, depending on the situation, I'm most likely not going to use it, but I like the fact that it's there to help change an outcome that I didn't create.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree, and I really like this idea of making sense of the mechanics in world. I'm a big fan of that in literature and art and all of that. And I like this idea that, cheat death could make sense in a certain way. We cheat death every day. There's also a kind of theme that I was thinking over while listening to you both, um, of one of the things that gives weight to the game for me, at least, is that there's no way out, right? If you
Hmm.
were if you were on Great Bear and you're surviving, but oh, I just need to, go to Desolation Point and walk past that bridge and then there's civilization. Or I could just get to Forsaken Airfield and hop on a helicopter and I'm out of here. Uh, that would be a very different experience,
Hmm.
right? It's that you're sort of abandoned to the situation that gives it so much weight. And I think that's what permadeath does too. It says, hey, if you make these mistakes, that's it, right? It's not no way out. There's one way out. There is one.
I've
Hmm.
Uh,
I've always used a particular phrase in kind of saying that in a way, to people, when they start talking about, bad things happening, or, a certain thing that may be your demise or whatever. And I always go, welcome to life. No one gets out alive.
mhm.
Hmm.
That's right. That's right. I want to maybe pivot a second. This might be a little bit off topic, but maybe not. Maybe it's just approaching the topic in a different way. I know that Kirk Steven, you've said this before on this podcast, that you think a lot of the features from Tales from the Far Territory, especially a lot of the recent additions like the Trader and recipes and things like this, are maybe testing out what may or may not uh, be in or at least inform the design of Black Frost. And I was wondering, maybe cheat death is a way of testing out how to make multiplayer work, because I see a lot of people say things like, well, look, if you're with a group of people and somebody dies, is that just it for them? Are they out? Is that it for the whole run? But maybe something like cheat death, like, oh, they can respawn, but they don't have their stuff and they're far away, or they have some sort of debuff or something like that. That might be a way to let a group continue to play together, even though somebody dies. They have a loss of resources, they have a loss of time, something like that. Do you think that might be likely?
Well, for the record, that there has already been talk about a system that they call will to live.
Mm,
So it won't be cheating death per se, but the early talk is that there'll be a system of will to live. So I have a feeling that's probably tied into what you're talking about with the multiplayer thing, because there would have to be a way for stories to continue in that, unless you chose to do it that way. And again, going to some of the beautiful things about the Long Dark and being replayable is that you can set all these parameters in your own game and make it as hard or easy or whatever you like. You could play a multiplayer deal and say permadeath is a thing. And, if your group loses somebody, that's it. You got to figure it out.
Yeah, for sure. And I wonder if that name, Will to Live, obviously it's all speculation right now. I wonder how different it will be, because it could be a change in name only, right? It could just be, hey, if this is going to be the default way to play the game with other people, and we don't want to call all of the players cheaters for normal gameplay. But yeah, there has to be a way for the stories to continue. I agree. I also am interested in Black Frost for the regarding this conversation, this topic, because the Long Dark, whether it's a lonely game for you or whether you find a lot of solitude in it, I think either way, part of the reason for that, part of why that feeling can be produced, is because you're alone. And that can either be a disconnection from other people or a connection to yourself. And Sutherland changes that a little bit, but Black Frost, of course, looks like it's going to be multiplayer, and it looks like there's NPCs as well. And so I wonder if that game is even going to try to have this kind of loneliness or solitude dimension to it, or if it's going to have a totally different vibe altogether. I trust Hinterland in general, but I am wondering, like, are they going to be even trying to get that vibe?
Well, I think
that's a good point. I think I've heard a lot of people bring that up as well, that they're kind of worried that adding in the NPCs and everything in multiplayer are going to kind of take away those feelings that they've grown so used to and have grown to appreciate in the first game.
And one of the things about Black Frost that we already know about too is in the titling. It says "Live together, die alone." So that in itself talks to what we're talking about.
Yeah. I mean, it can also take it the other way, and it might even amplify those feelings more as well. So
it may actually amplify more of a loneliness if, let's say, one of your teammates does die. And there is a separation, like if the map is big enough and it's going to take time for them to reconnect, then you've instituted a sense of loneliness that your companion is not there to help you for that given amount of time, depending on how they implement it.
Yeah.
For sure. For sure. And I also wonder then, depending on how they go about Black Frost, because it does seem like, like you said, it's right in the slogan. So I wonder, one theme that came out from this discussion and from some of the statements in chat that we already talked about before, is that it's loneliness and solitude aren't coming out in the Long Dark from one aspect of the game, right? It's from the music. It's from the environment. It's from the quotes at the beginning of each run. It's from the bodies. It's from all this other, all these things. The whole thing is a tapestry out of which these emotions or experiences emerge, right? And so if Black Frost, right? Black Frost is going to be multiplayer. There's going to be NPCs and stuff. They say live together or die alone. I wonder how that approach, because I do think they're probably going for, at least to some extent, a different vibe. I wonder how much of a difference that's going to make in the other threads of the tapestry. Like, is that going to be reflected musically? The audio engineering is brilliant in the Long Dark, so probably. Is that going to be affect the types of environments that we're experiencing? The quotes that we see in the game, and so on. It could be a totally different sort of affective landscape, if you will.
Dangers in the game are going to take on a different precedent.
Yeah.
And we saw that in the
sure.
early video where the bear roars and 4 people get up to deal with it. A blizzard could be dealt with in a different way as somebody's trying to set up shelter while the other person's lighting a fire. So there's going to be a whole different vibe to those situations in some aspects. Clippy7429 has a question. I'll answer that just in a little bit, Clippy. It's a good question, but let's finish with our deal that we're talking about right now.
I guess one thing I'll just add is just because there are other characters in the game, whether that's NPCs or other players, doesn't mean it won't be lonely, right? You can feel lonely when you're not alone.
Mm-hmm.
And to just ping off of what Kirk Steven was just saying, right? If you're in a blizzard and, getting lost in a blizzard on your own, that's one thing. But seeing somebody else get separated from the group or losing track of somebody else, that could probably bring up certain feelings of loneliness as well.
What if your team makes a mistake of not tying off with each other?
Oh no.
And somebody gets lost in a blizzard.
Yeah. So it could be that it's not that it'll be less lonely, perhaps, but maybe lonely in different ways. It could just be lonely in different ways.
It could be a more complicated survival situation depending on how in depth they get it.
Yeah.
And I saw some people in chat too who early on in this discussion who were saying they don't really experience loneliness in the Long Dark. It's sort of just solitude. And so for some people, maybe Black Frost will be the more lonely game. Maybe they'll feel lonely precisely because they're with other people.
And something else that I've noticed too, and chat can back me up, and you guys obviously too, if you're dealing with Sutherland as a trader and the Aurora goes off and you get close to the radio, he's literally yelling at you to pick up. But when you get him on the radio, his tone is different. He's like demanding you talk to him. But when you do, then he's kind of surly and it's kind of a mixed message sometimes. It's like you seem desperate to talk to me, but when I'm talking to you, you don't really want to talk to me.
Yeah, I've noticed that as well.
I've made fun of that a few times in some of my videos.
It's very funny. I think that Sutherland in a certain way is very well designed, partly because of that. Because before Sutherland, your experience, like the only thing making any demands of you is the environment. But I do think that from a philosophical perspective, I think that what distinguishes a personal interaction, and I think we can have personal interactions with animals too, like non-human animals, but what distinguishes a social encounter from other types of encounters is that in a social encounter, when we see another person, they place demands on us. Like even when another person is even just by being present, I have to figure out how to react to their presence, how to respond to the other person. And so for Sutherland to show up and literally call you and demand, pick up, that is a very, very essentially social encounter.
And ST Nyland, I think, nails it right here. He says, Sutherland is desperate not to be alone, but can't stand people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that doesn't seem very fun for him. Yeah. Did we want to go to, you mentioned...
The morality.
Oh, well, I'm happy to talk about that too. I know we mentioned Clippy's comment earlier as well.
Oh, yeah.
I'm happy to go in either direction.
And I'll read it off because Jetwire can't see chat. That's why she's not answering. She's usually better at this than I am. So forgive the fact that she's not able to see chat because she's so much better at that part. But Clippy said that does streaming or even recording versus playing offline impact the feeling of loneliness? And I think it's a two-folded answer with that. That when you're streaming, it is a group thing because you're playing the game and you're interacting with chat, and so the loneliness part of that is different. I don't think you're lonely because there's a conversation going on in chat while you're playing, and the conversation isn't always about what you're talking about. Even with our own chat, we can see it go by. Some of the comments are related to the conversations you're having amongst yourselves in the community. So not all of it is tied to what's being happened. So streaming is a little bit different. Now recording brings on a whole different aspect because you're technically still playing the game as if you were offline. The only difference is you're narrating your story. You're talking out loud. You're telling an invisible person what you're doing. So it's a different aspect. At least that's the way I look at it.
Do you have any thoughts, Jitwire?
Yeah, I mean, so I would agree with Kirk on that, especially on the recording bit, because you are talking to a different person. So I feel like it almost, I wouldn't want to say that it increases the loneliness or solitude or decreases them at all, but it's a very, very different feel because it's like you have to narrate what you're doing and talk through your thought process, and sometimes you're even teaching as well.
Yeah.
Piccolo's got a nice comment here, and she said this earlier, and I missed it, but it says streaming affects both. It says you don't feel as immersed when you're playing the game when you're streaming because it becomes more of a social event.
Yep.
Yeah, I agree with that as well. Yeah, it's interesting because recording it's kind of like writing a book, and I guess one thing that distinguishes solitude from loneliness for me is, and this might be cultural or something, I don't know, but it's not productivity, that's not the right word, it's activity, right? If I'm active, if I'm doing something, I'm much more likely to feel solitude than I am to feel lonely. So when I'm writing, in a certain sense, it doesn't feel lonely to me to be writing, and it doesn't feel lonely to me to be recording myself playing the game, knowing other people are going to hear this at some point. Now the big difference I think between streaming and recording, it's really it's that interaction. I mean, Socrates was really suspicious of writing because he thought writing is dead. You can read it and you can ask it a question, but it's not going to respond to you. The words are going to be the same words that were on the page, before and after you asked that question. And so streaming, you have an interaction, and that's very different. I'll also say that when I first started on YouTube, I did some streaming, and it was largely unsuccessful. And I'm sure anyone here who has streamed before, they've had that initial stage where nobody's there. Talking to yourself as if somebody might join any second, that is a very lonely experience, in my opinion.
Yes. Oh my gosh, I'm glad you brought that up because you hit the nail on the head with that one.
Feels awful.
Yeah.
And you have to do it, right? Because if somebody shows up, you might not notice the second they show up.
Yeah.
And so you have to already be in your thing, doing the thing, so that if they show up, they'll be entertained immediately.
It's not just dead air. Yeah.
In a way, it's like you have to commit to the bit.
Yeah.
Basically, you have to commit to the bit. Hey, a side note on this too, and as you were talking about, if you keep busy, you don't feel lonely. You feel solitude. Okay, so now let's turn that on its side with something in the game that a lot of us all hate to do, and we see it in our streamers and recorders: passing time.
Yeah.
Because boredom breeds the loneliness.
Yeah.
So you don't want to pass time. You want to find something to do. You want to process a tea. You want to repair something. You want to do, but the act of passing time seems so frustrating. And I'm wondering if you're introducing a sense of loneliness along with that.
Yeah, and I wonder if part of that, I think that's right, and I wonder if part of that is the empathy that you might have for the character as well. It just seems awful for Astrid to just stand in place for 3 hours, right? That's terrible. I can't imagine she would feel solitude just standing there. So yeah, we want to feel productive. We want to feel like we're doing something. And of course, part of that is because there are real stakes. But maybe that's part of what solitude is. Maybe it's a matter of being engaged in the situation, whatever those stakes are, whatever those factors are, and really being involved. Whereas loneliness often is described as feeling separated, like you're behind, especially in cases of like depression, like you're behind a glass panel, like a window, and you can't touch anything, you can't interact with anything, you can't do anything. So I think there is I think this is a component of it that I wasn't thinking of prior to this conversation. Jitwire mentioned earlier maybe getting a little bit into morality and values, and I'd love to say a little bit about that if people are interested in that.
And I was also going to bring up a point on that too, because as we get closer, we're looking at, you know, the clock running out on us. Is if it's acceptable, we could even schedule a separate show to talk about just that very subject, just about morality. We can touch base on it, maybe see what the what you know chat has to think about, you know, whether or not it's worthy of a whole show.
Sure.
But that's something to consider, because there's a lot of in-depth things that we'd like to talk about when it comes to the morality part of that. So I don't know if we can do it in 3 or 5 minutes.
Sure, that's a good point. And this is one of those things where loneliness and solitude are concepts I've played around with a bit and I care about, but morality, I've been teaching ethics for a long time, so even if we could say it in 5 minutes, I don't know if I could say anything in 5 minutes, and I'd really want to hear what you have to say about it anyway. So I'd be open to that if people are interested in that.
Yeah, Toasty just said you could do a whole episode on Molly alone.
Yeah.
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 Just to bring in the story mode. And here's this, I brought this up to Conatus when we were talking prior. We got into the thing about morality, and this will just, I think this is simple enough to let chat kind of get a flavor for what we're talking about without getting into much depth. And one of the things I brought up with morality was, if you've played story mode and you're playing Will and you're walking up to Milton, there's that first interaction at the radio tower where he's startled by the dead body that's frozen against the fence. And if you take yourself, that would happen to you too. You would be kind of taken aback. And then the next body and the next body. You're going to slowly become jaded because you're finding more and more. At what point do you give yourself permission in your morality to actually pilfer this guy's pockets for something to keep you alive? Take his shoes, steal his shirt. And that's kind of where him and I were talking about this off the thing as we were discussing what we were going to talk about today. So if you'd like, maybe we could plan something in the near future and just touch base on all of the things tied to the game that have to do with choices of morality.
Yeah, it's a whole can of worms.
Yep.
And because Jitwire wasn't part of that conversation, by all means, lend her feedback on that as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think that would be great, and I think it's a much deeper topic, and there's a lot of different angles to come at that morality versus even like loneliness and solitude, which is such a big theme in the game, but it is very, very heavily underlined by the morality and the choices that we make. So I would love to have that conversation.
Yeah, loneliness and solitude would have given us an in to talk about morality, but it really is a much, much broader topic than just loneliness and solitude could do justice to.
Maybe this would be a good one for us to test out. We've talked about this before. Because of the system that we have in place, we can do more than just the two of us talking, Jitwire and I, or having a guest like Conatus is on. Maybe this would be something we could think about doing more of a panel thing, and maybe have 4 or 5 people to talk about this discussion, and maybe set aside a time where we could take more than just an hour, and we can expand upon it into like a 2-hour show or something. Food for thought.
Yeah, could be cool.
Yeah.
And then Interloper 2420 is saying, I think morality would slowly decline and more survival becomes necessary. And and that's kind of what I was talking about. It becomes a slippery slope. And Conatus and I had a fairly long discussion about it, which I think is why I think this would be better for its own show, because him and I actually talked longer than we had anticipated, because we kind of slipped down that side caveat, and it was a very good conversation, and I'd love to push in it.
Yeah, and just to respond to Interloper 2420 and also Carradine, who says the only ethic is to survive. Yeah, I think that survival really is a fundamental part of what we would need to talk about with morality. But I do also think there's a lot that's nuanced. It's extremely nuanced. So you're hitting on, I think, exactly the right point. But even there's a lot to say about ethics and survival. Which I don't want to get into, right? I feel the urge to say more because it's a topic I'm interested in. But
and we don't want the wife to have the conniption we talked about earlier.
Yeah, I don't want to leave her out there for too long. Yeah, for sure.
Might get to feel some loneliness yourself after that.
Yeah. Could be some serious loneliness being in the doghouse.
Yeah, I'm just gonna be in survival mode for a little while. For sure.
Oh.
But yeah, so I mean, do you want to take everyone a moment? Make sure you go check out Conatus's channel. There should be a link in the description, and I will also try to get a pinned comment up so you guys can go check out his stuff. He does have an interloper run that he's currently doing. Correct? You're still currently doing it?
Yep, that's right. Yeah, I was away for a few months. Summer got in the way, but now it's back up and running.
Yep. Okay, awesome. So yeah, he currently has an interloper running he's doing, and he also puts out a ton of great shorts as well. So definitely worth checking him out, leaving a like, and going to subscribe.
Go show him some community love. Go sub to his channel and all that stuff. Toasty, the answer is he's played the first 3, and he's held back playing 4.
Yeah. Waiting for 5, right?
I completely spaced out. I don't
know
what that refers to.
Toasty Bits was asking if you had played Wintermute, and you had mentioned that you played the first 3 episodes.
Yeah,
so
I
was
played the
answering
first
his
3.
question.
Yeah, for sure. So once it's done, I'm gonna work through it as well.
Okay.
Although I think it was it Toasty Bits who earlier said you could do a whole episode on Molly?
Molly.
Yeah. That's a good idea. Maybe I will.
Molly's a unique character.
She is. She is.
Yeah. And like I said, we'll get something going. We've got to get through this month. September is a hell of a month for both Jitwire and myself. So we're gonna get through this month, and then once we get on the other side, we'll look at the calendar and we'll plan this out and get with Conatus and see if we can't find a good day where he doesn't have to run off, because that's where we're kind of coming up on our time here, because he needs to leave. But by the same token, maybe we can we'll ask whether we can get anybody else in on the conversation. And maybe we'll do a little bigger forum too. I think this could be a long conversation, and especially if we can get some other points of view in, would be awesome.
Yeah, I agree. I think these sorts of discussions really thrive with more perspectives.
So. Agreed. But Conatus, was there anything you wanted to say to chat before we wrap up?
I mean, not much. I mean, thanks for coming out. I love this community. I appreciate any support you want to show me, but I'm glad to just be here speaking with you right now. Like Jitwire said, I have that Interloper playthrough. I do some other games occasionally. I'm playing Silksong right now. And once I get a little bit more practice with editing, I'm hoping to put out some video essays about philosophy in games. I'm sure I'll be touching on the Long Dark. So hopefully that'll be sometime soon. if you're interested, keep an eye out.
Awesome. And Kirk?
Do the YouTube things. Like, comment, subscribe. We hit a milestone last month. We're still climbing. Plans are in the works for a lot of things, which we will reveal probably in October.
Yep, absolutely. Well, I'm so sorry I couldn't see chat and say hi to all of you personally, especially since being away for a month. But again, I'm so glad you all are here, and thank you so very much for joining us. We really appreciate it, whether you're watching live or you're listening to the recording, and we hope to see you next time. Bye-bye.